Welcome to another edition of Eye on the Issues. Today we're talking education, and education is kind of a big deal right now in the state of Wyoming, especially since there's a lot going on, and we'll get down to the educational savings accounts in a moment. But Superintendent of Public Instruction, Megan Degenfelder, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thanks so much for having me again.
Let's begin by talking about your perception as to how things are going statewide, K through 12 education.
Well, you're right. Education is a big deal in Wyoming right now. I'd say it's the biggest deal. We're right now facing two incredible court challenges when it comes to education funding and then education choice. And so those are pretty significant right now. But overall, we're doing well. Wyoming continues to outperform most states on the NAEP assessment, which is good. But good is not good enough, because when you look at what that means, that's still less than 50% of kids that are proficient or above. And so that's where we're really aiming to do better and to push that status quo. We've seen huge increases in career and technical education and kind of more work-based learning, getting out of the classroom. We're looking at how we can really change up our accountability system. And then we've seen huge advancements since I took office with school choice and with parental rights and in those sort of areas. And that's really what my promise was coming into office. And it's been really neat now reflecting over the past few years that we have delivered. And it just shows that, government can't stand in the way of people that are really committed and want to do what's best for families and kids.
And what kind of feedback are you getting around the state in terms of the direction of the education in Wyoming, especially since you've taken over in 2022?
It's been really positive. Parents really want to be involved in their child's education, and this notion of just, closing the door on parents and having them look away, it's a thing of the past. And parents want to be involved. They want to drive their education. We are seeing more involvement than ever from the private sector, from our businesses across the state, because they're getting involved in how we prepare students for jobs. And so it's this really incredible time to be in education in Wyoming. We're seeing this great movement and people just getting excited about what's next and how we can truly reshape it. And then when you add that on top of all the exciting work that's happening on the federal level, it is just this great moment in time that we have to really, just take the bull by the horns when it comes to education, drive our state priorities. And so I've been really honored to be a part of that discussion at the federal level, and people in Wyoming, they're excited.
And speaking of the federal level, let's go there for a quick second. Of course, President Trump talking about essentially dismantling much of the Department of Education. From a state perspective, your thoughts on that?
Well, I was really honored to actually be at the White House for that executive order signing. This is something that I have talked about for years and years. I fully support it. Wyoming is not like California, and our accountability systems, the way that we run education, shouldn't be. And when you look at the success of the federal Department of Education over time and how it has just ballooned in terms of spending and bureaucrats behind desks in Washington, D.C., we have not improved outcomes. I mean, our national reading scores declined this last NAEP. And so anyway, we have a lot of work to do, and it's best suited for the states. I could go into our founding fathers, and there was never an intention for a federal Department of Education. But I'm extremely supportive of President Trump and all of our efforts moving forward to bring control back to the states where it belongs.
Yeah, earlier in the last few days, actually, there's been what's called TeacherCon 25. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so another big initiative that I've had, well, two actually. Number one has been valuing and supporting our teachers, moving away from the bureaucracy, the administration, focusing on teachers in the classroom. And then number two has been about bringing patriotism back to the classroom. And so we had this concept of let's bring back a teacher conference, a mega teacher conference that we haven't had in a really long time, and have it all be around the upcoming 250th birthday of America. And so honoring civics education, education, honoring those efforts to get patriotism back in the classroom, support our teachers that are doing that. And so it was a great success for our first year doing it. We had hundreds of teachers. We maxed out on capacity, and it was just this exciting, just effort that's going to prepare us for this next year ahead of America's birthday. So it was a great deal, and we were able to get it 100% paid for by sponsorships and fees, and so that's pretty incredible when we can do that as well.
Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room if we can, the lawsuit against educational savings accounts. How do you feel about where things stand right now? And I would imagine you can't be very happy about the litigation that's underway.
Yeah, this whole situation has been extremely frustrating, and we expected that there might be some litigation on this issue, but what was the most troubling was the timing of when the lawsuit was filed. The Wyoming Education Association, which is they're affiliated with the National Education Association, they filed suit less than 2 weeks before we were supposed to start making payments to families. They cared more about making a political statement and sending these families into chaos than they did about these poor families and their kids that were expecting, they were counting on this money, they were making educational decisions. And what we found was it was extremely popular. We've had over 4,000 families, 4,000 students that have enrolled in this program, which for Wyoming, that's a big deal. And so it's really disappointing. The judge granted an injunction on the program, so we were unable to make payments just days before they were supposed to first go out to our families. We appealed the injunction the day after, and so now we're just unfortunately awaiting further action in the courts.
And we spoke a little bit earlier about a family or school reaching out to you about the number of students that they have coming in that were expecting that money. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've heard just comment over comment from schools, from families about how this is going to upend their life. I mean, families is one side of it. This also included a pre-K provision. We had a mother that emailed and she said that she took a job. She went back to the workforce as a single mother because she believed that this would be available to her and was asking us for guidance on whether or not she should quit her job. These are real impacts for families, not to mention our schools or different vendors in the program. They're counting on these families. They've hired additional individuals to teach at their schools because of this influx of students. And so they're hung out to dry, not knowing what's going to happen. We don't know if we hear something next week or if it'll be the majority of the school year. And so that's what's so troubling about the WEA and their action here. It's not about kids and families. It's about, politics and trying to just disrupt this program. But we'll keep fighting. We'll keep pushing in the courts in the best way that we can.
And in respect to families out there that don't know a lot about this program, how much money are we talking about for each student?
So each student was going to receive $7,000 to be used on a marketplace of approved vendors. They're for homeschooling, for private education. And the important thing here, which I hope will come out in the court case, is that this money was from the general fund of the legislature. It did not dip into our education programming dollars within the state. And so to say that there's harm to our public education system, I'm just not seeing that correlation. And that's what they're claiming in this court case. And so this is a totally separate program from our publicly funded education. Our legislature stepped up. They said, we want to support these families in their choice. And so it's the entire thing's very troubling.
That point you just made is actually huge, which essentially disintegrates the argument that the other side, the Wyoming Education Association, has. If you were going to send a message out there to parents who are in the middle of this, to contact the other side and say, hey, please come through for us and stop this, who should they reach out to? The Wyoming Education Association?
Yeah, I think absolutely. They're the ones that filed this lawsuit. They should know what families in Wyoming truly believe and want. I've tried to explain to families too that, change, with change comes great obstacles, and doing what is right can often be challenged. And so we have to keep staying strong in this mission. I always liken it to, the buffalo is the symbol of Wyoming. It's on our state flag. It's our state animal. And buffalo, they're very interesting animals because when a storm storm starts, they're actually one of the few animals that turns and faces into the storm. And because they know that the easiest way out is through. And so that's what I keep encouraging our families to do. We're going to face this storm, we're going to work through it. And in the end, we will see that we earn what's right for our students.
And in respect to other aspects of education in the state, what are you looking forward to in the next year?
Well, as I mentioned, this great opportunity I think we have with the federal government. There's really two ways we can take this. Either you stay status quo and you don't take advantage of the opportunities they're providing, or we jump all headfirst in and we say, we want greater flexibility. This is how we want to run accountability with our education system. The U.S. Department of Education has been very open about opportunities for waiver requests, for more flexibility, to really just take on education as we see fit. And I think that that's incredible opportunity at this point in time to take advantage of. We're working on all kinds of things, career and technical education, as I mentioned. We're working on student discipline or behavior issues in classrooms, how we ensure that we're moving away from, the Obama era of discipline for students. So a lot of really exciting things happening, and we'll just keep on pushing forward.
And so for parents that are out there and they're kind of on the fence right now, they're saying, well, do I send my child to a 4-year college or do I get them a technical degree? What's your advice and where can they go to do a little homework to see about careers that are out there in respect to the technical education?
Yeah, I think shifting this mindset of that, these 4-year institutions have made us believe that paying a high price for these degrees leads to success somehow, and in a lot of ways, it's not. We've got folks with certifications, those career tech ed pathways that are making far more than a lot of individuals with college degrees, and so I think to continue to take advantage of those career and technical education pathways to really individualize learning for our students, recognizing that even within one family unit, children are going to learn differently. They're going to have different paths, and to explore, what that means. I think we need to take a hard look at what the return is on the investment in our university structure, where those jobs actually are in our state, how much those jobs are paying, and what that leads to for our students in the future.
A very, very good point. All right. Is there anything we covered a lot of ground in a very short amount of time? Is there anything I'm not asking you that you want to talk about?
We did cover a lot, didn't we? I mean, those are a lot of the main things that we're really working on. So covered the patriotism efforts. Yeah, just a lot of really exciting things.
Gotcha. And if people want to go to your website to learn more about what's happening around the state, where should they go?
Yes, you could Google the Wyoming Department of Education. We've got a lot of info there. We're trying to really step it up in terms of communicating to parents. When I came into office, there was a lot of focus on back to school kits for teachers or for administrators. And I asked the question of why aren't we doing this for parents? And so, in a couple weeks, we will be releasing our state assessment results and our school performance ratings. We're trying to make that easier than ever for parents to understand and decipher and be able to say, how well is my school doing? How well are they performing? Because I think in the past it's been available, but when it takes you an hour to even navigate the system and to see how your school is performing, it does no good. And so we're really excited about just providing more resources for parents to understand what does this mean, and based on that information, then you can make the best choice for your student and where they should be educated.
What a great idea. Okay, if people out there want to learn more about what's happening around the state of Wyoming, just go to wyliberty.org. Sign up for our newsletter. Superintendent, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.